welcome to another episode of The Little Give. Today we're going to have Chris with us. Chris is going to talk to us all about marketing, not just marketing your business, but also marketing a nonprofit. He's going to share lots of tips and tricks with us, and I'm excited to have him on. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Chris Burns. I am a marketing consultant, marketing professional, entrepreneur, podcaster, a lot of different things. I hail from Appleton, Wisconsin. I've been in the marketing world for a little over 20 years, which sounds painful to say as makes me feel old. But I own a marketing business called Lux Level Media and a leadership business with a podcast called Hustle Leaders and Hustle Nation podcast. And I just absolutely love what I do, and I'm really excited to be here.
How did you end up getting your start into that field?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as an entrepreneur, you really never know what you want to do tomorrow or next year. But I think with me, marketing started back in high school. And I was recently asked this question, so I was able to reflect and kind of just smile as I look back at high school. So my senior year, I was looking for an elective, just really more of a slacker class. And my guidance counselor said, "Why don't you try marketing? You seem to have a pretty big interest in sales and business." And I said, "What the hell is marketing?" And she's like, "You don't know what marketing is?" "No, I don't." And she said, "Well, you get to work in the class store. You can join the DECA program, which is like a sales competition. And then you get to take a class trip to New York City." And as a small town kid from Wisconsin, I was like, well, New York City sounds pretty cool. Let's do this marketing thing. And I loved it. As one of the first classes in my high school career where I was really 100% engaged. And I felt like I was also learning something that I would apply to my career potentially. And then that encouraged me to want to study marketing in college, which I did, got a degree, and then worked in and out of a family business for a while. But every job I've had, mostly since I graduated, was pretty heavily marketing involved. And at that time, which is really interesting, there was no such thing as social media marketing. That term did not exist. Internet marketing was just becoming a thing. And really the only thing you could do online was email marketing and websites. Google ads were pretty much within a couple years old. So people were still really figuring that out. And there wasn't anything like what we have today. And I was just so intrigued. I saw all this opportunity. So I became very much self-taught on how to build websites, how to create content, strategy, SEO, all these cool things. And now the world seems like it's passing us by as it's just continuing to evolve. But that's what I love about it, is it's ever changing and keeps us on our toes.
Well, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you think about the social media marketing now. Do you think that's like an asset, or do you think that it kind of takes away from what you previously had learned?
Oh, it's definitely an asset. It doesn't take away from what we previously learned. I think that anything in business, you'll notice, and granted, I'm only 41, but things evolve and things change. And I think that if you as a business do not evolve and change, the industry and the competition will pass you by. So I love the fact that things evolve. And I've always thought that if you're an early adapter to anything, whether it be Facebook, what it was, or Google, what it was, TikTok, even what it was 2 years ago, you will see the benefits of that just before the algorithms get real tight and it becomes more difficult to stand out. I think you have a huge benefit if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and try some new things. And so I'm all for that. I'm all for it because I know that whether it's my business, my businesses, or my clients, that they can come to me and I'll be relatively knowledgeable about that new platform, that new tactic, and I can help guide them to help reach those results. And so I love social media. I think that if you're evolving, you're going to see really good results from it. But if you're continually not evolving your strategy and tactics, you're probably going to feel like, yeah, I don't know. I don't get a lot out of social media. And that's because you're probably stuck in the past a little bit.
Very interesting. Do you have a couple of tips for the audience about like the do's and don'ts of posting on social media to do marketing?
I do. So number one, I'll give you probably at least three, would be most small businesses that I know, and I'm talking about like mom and pop type businesses that are 500,000 or less. They primarily use it as a tool to generate sales. And while that's kind of okay, the purpose of social media is to be social, not to sell. That's why it's called social media. And so when you treat it as a sales tool, most people will not engage with your content. They will not share it. They will not convert, because they're there to be entertained. They're there to learn something. They're there to connect with others and communicate. They're not there to be sold to. In fact, that's why a lot of people are moving away from TV and moving to streaming, is because there's no commercials. It's uninterrupted. And so I think ultimately I try to focus on selling by indirectly selling. So I try to add so much value to my newsfeed that as a byproduct, my customers, my prospective clients want to do business with me. So for example, on LinkedIn, I'm on a personal mission to post once a day for a whole entire year. And I don't know the last time, I could probably tell you it was when I worked for a social media agency, that I actively tried to sell my services. I haven't done that. And I think people will see if they want to know what it is that I do and what it is that I sell. But I think just based on the content, they're going to say, wow, this Chris guy knows so much about social media. I should ask him. I should set some time apart with him or book him to do XYZ for my company. And so I think if you treat it as a platform to build an audience, you can monetize it later, right? They're going to want to work with you. Number two is focus on quality over quantity. I don't think you need to post 5, 6, 7 times a week for your business, just because people don't want to be spammed. And that's ultimately what we do when we put too much content out. So quality, meaning let's focus on creating video instead of putting up just links to our website. Let's focus on things that are going to add value to our followers' newsfeed. So can you teach, inspire, empower, educate? Any one of those things is typically going to be better than focusing on your product or service. And then number 3, we'll get a little more tactical, is I really think that when it comes down to the content you're posting, I would rather you stay away from traditional posting, like just images to your newsfeed. That worked 3, 4, 5 years ago. But as you've probably noticed with a lot of the small businesses listening, is that you're lucky if, with the current algorithm on Facebook and Instagram, if you reach 7% of your audience. Now, that's not a guesstimation, that's an actual fact. The organic reach, meaning 6 to 7% of your followers will even see your content. So what I'm telling my clients is, let's take some of that time and let's allocate that to vertical video. So maybe post 2 or 3 times a week. That's all you need. And then put that time into creating a Facebook, Instagram reel, a TikTok, a YouTube short. That's what I mean by vertical video.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you just a quick statistic. So for one of my businesses early last fall, I did just a quick comparison of 3 photo posts for Instagram and 3 vertical videos for Instagram. So the reels versus the photo posts. And the total amount of reach with the vertical video was 6,000 times greater. I'm not talking about 50% or 200%. I'm talking about 6,000 times greater. And the engagement was almost 3,000 times greater. And so when people say, hey, Chris, what can I do? It's just not working. Well, that's because you're not evolving. Your strategy and your game plan is getting very stale and probably very boring. And so it's time to inject some new energy and some new ideas. And you can do a lot with that on vertical video. And so those are a couple things. I'll give you a fourth one as a bonus would be, if you are kind of more in the startup phase where you're newer, and I say newer, like a couple years in, I would rather you focus on building your personal brand over your business brand. And the reason being is that I personally, and I'm guessing same with you, Cindy, is that I don't have a real emotional or physical connection to any business. I primarily connect with, on a one-to-one basis, people. And so therefore, if you look at any of these real successful people on the Shark Tank, Damon John, Mark Cuban, even Gary Vaynerchuk, name any big mogul like that. They have a personal brand. And when they launch a book, people want to go buy it, right? Because they've added so much value to their followers and the people who adore them that as a byproduct, you want to go support that individual because you just know you're gonna get something out of that book or that master class, that digital download that they're trying to sell. And so I think personal brand, for so many reasons, is a really big thing I would focus on before I just go and try to hammer out a sales message for my brand.
Hi, My name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
So with the videos you mentioned, like what would they put? Just them talking about their product or them talking about their brand, or like what would you do a video for?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. So what I would tell people is that it kind of varies by industry and the trade that you're in. So if you are a chiropractor, I would grab my phone, and I've got a little stand. If you're listening, you probably can't see that, but you can prop your phone up anywhere in your home, get a ring light. So good lighting, good sound environment. And you could talk about dietary supplements. You could talk about the importance of getting more sleep. Now, if you're in health and beauty, maybe you work for a salon or a spa, you could talk about the benefits of maybe not washing your hair every single day. You could talk about the hair care products. You could talk about different ways you can style your hair so that it looks better. There's all kinds of things that you in your profession know that maybe I wouldn't as your client or customer. And so it goes back to a few things. It is educating, empowering, inspiring, or entertaining. Now, you could be entertaining doing any of those things, or you may not think of this because what we know in our brain, we tend to take for granted because our clients don't know this. We just assume everybody knows this stuff. And so I might create a video on how to create vertical videos. I might show the products I'm using, the tools I'm using, how to create it, how to upload it, or that could be 4 different videos right there. And so what I would encourage you to do if you're struggling for ideas would be, I would have you go through TikTok or Instagram Reels, and I would have you look at 3 or 4 people in your space who are creating videos and say, oh, that's a really interesting subject. I could do something like that, but different. And so you get some inspiration from looking at other people in your space. And honestly, it's so easy. There's almost no excuse not to do it because it can take you 2 minutes to record a video. It could take you another 5 to 10 minutes to edit it. And then you could have it posted. And then potentially you could be seen by 5,000 people. Now, if you do that consistently over and over, you could easily get yourself to 1 million views throughout the year as you start to grow and build your subscribers and whatnot. And so you can't get that. You just cannot get that by posting organically to your news feed. So for me, I would really encourage people, just because they can probably 10x their reach at least by creating vertical video.
Awesome. That's great advice. Yeah. So with the videos, I see some people do these TikTok dances. Is there like a time that you prefer like people to market with? Is like 10 seconds too much or 15, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, excellent question. I would say that it all varies on your message. So, for example, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm taking clips from my podcast. So, I've got dozens and dozens of shows that are about 45, 55 minutes, and I can take what I call micro clips, so little nuggets, sound bites from the guest. Could be 20 seconds long. I've had some up to 59 seconds long, and most platforms, the limit is 60 seconds. And I find the attention span and what works best is probably around 25 to 35 seconds. Although I've seen some that are 15 seconds that are, getting millions of views. So if you're doing something more fun and entertaining, empowering, you could definitely get away with 15, 20-second message. If you're doing something that's a little bit more on the educational side and you're taking clips from podcasts, you're probably going to see more like 35 to 65 seconds, or 60 seconds, I should say. If you want to focus on the dancing and singing, by all means, be my guest. But most of my clients and most of what I'm seeing in the professional business world, especially B2B, they stay away from a lot of that. And they just focus on, again, I say adding value to their followers' news feeds, talking about new trends, which is a lot of what I do. I'll actually take a screenshot from an article based on like TechCrunch or entrepreneur.com or social media today, and I will use it as my background. So I'll do a green screen and I'll just kind of point to it and reference a couple of the headlines, and that'll be my video, 45, 55 seconds. And again, so easy. There's almost no excuse not to do it.
Yeah, those are all great tidbits. And don't worry, I won't be doing any singing or dancing on TikTok. Nobody wants to see that, and I'm well aware of that.
Same.
But I think it's very interesting that lately I've heard a lot about it switching from a platform of pictures. Facebook used to be you're looking at pictures and pictures and pictures. That now it's videos and videos and videos, and that's where the world's going to kind of shift. So I'm glad you brought up those little tidbits of how to do that better. Great examples. What about podcasting? Do you have any tips for podcasting and how you can promote your podcast if you have one?
I do, yeah. I think that's another one it's a very interesting space right now. There's a lot of competition with podcasts. And I've heard some people say, well, I'm not going to do a podcast anymore because there's too much competition. And while that might be true, I've also heard those same people say that, once I got to 25 episodes or 50 episodes, everything changed. Meaning a couple things. One, when you get to a certain level, people say, wow, this person really has some amazing guests. And then what happens is these guests will distribute your podcast because you'll ask them, say, hey, if you don't mind, would you please engage with the content we post that features you in the episode? And then, oh, by the way, here are a couple of micro clips you can go and post on your own profile. And then as a byproduct, what you're doing is you're basically borrowing their audience to get to promote your show. And hopefully your show also promotes some of your products and services. And so I make sure that when you're promoting your show, you do ask your guests and you should seek out guests that have a bit of an audience. They don't have to have a million followers, but people who are already very active on social, because if they're active and they have an audience, they're going to blast it out to their community because it obviously makes them look good. And so that would be one. Number two would be taking the video. So I record my podcast in Riverside FM, and then I download it, which you can do it automatically in the vertical video. It's like a vertical rectangle. And I will basically edit the clips on my phone, and I use those to post almost every single day on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok, and wherever else I could put them. And so that would be another one. But I will use that vertical video, and I encourage my clients to do this too, is post that on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and any other platform, because vertical video is now welcomed on all platforms. I would also make sure that when you are producing your podcast, that you have it on a platform like a StreamYard or a Buzzsprout, where that will distribute the RSS feed to all the major podcasting platforms. So all I have to do is upload a show, and then it goes out to Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, name all the other platforms that are out there as well. And you get this massive distribution and incredible opportunity. But for me, it's really ultimately about just continually getting better. So as the show gets better, more people are going to want to listen to it, more people are going to share it. And then if you continue to also use the micro content and you distribute that across all platforms, also in groups, I think you'll find that that people will really engage with it. But don't be afraid to put it out, put feelers out there and say, hey, I'm looking for guests that can speak about this particular vertical or that particular vertical. And then you'll get people just becoming aware of it because they'll be tagging their friends saying, hey, Joe, this would be a great fit for you. So there's just so many great organic ways you can grow it, and primarily use it for content, both on your website, on YouTube, and any other platform. That's what I love about it is you get both the audio and the video. And if you do it right, you can, I don't want to say automate, but you can make your marketing content much easier.
Yeah, those are all great tips. Yeah, I actually spun this show into a podcast as well because I had several people say, hey, I love what you're doing, but I don't have time to sit down and watch a TV show. So I decided, oh, well, I already have the content. Let me just spin it into a podcast as well to kind of capture that audience too. And so that they can watch or listen on their way to work. And it's really been an interesting thing. I did exactly what you said, which was, put it on bus routes, and then it goes to all those major streaming platforms. And it's been interesting. But what great tips you've shared there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
So you had mentioned when we first talked in the pre-show that you've helped with a lot of nonprofits. Tell me how you got started on that.
I have. It's interesting. I was an executive director for a nonprofit a long time ago. And then as I started to get older, I recognized that, I care about my community. My community has been very good to me. And so as I got older and I was able to give back in different ways, I wanted to join some boards, and I did. And it was always a very fulfilling experience for me. I was also involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters as a big brother back in my early 20s. And so I wanted to find different ways. And then as I started my marketing business, I picked up serendipitously some nonprofit clients. And it, again, was very fulfilling work knowing that even if I was discounting my services or doing things for free, that I was making an impact in my community. And that work was able to help them serve more people. And it's just, great feeling. And so naturally what happens in the nonprofit community, especially in your local area, is that one will tell another, hey, you should really reach out to these guys. They do discounted work. They're really good. They're really easy to work with. And then next thing you know, it kind of doubles and triples and quadruples. And next thing you know, you're working with 50% of your clients are nonprofits. And we actually are, we had a program with one of our community foundations here locally where we were doing cohorts, basically like 3-month sprint of work at a discounted rate for anywhere from 3 to 6 nonprofits at a time. And it was awesome to know that they had us as their resource, kind of like they were paying an agency on retainer, but for a limited period of time. And we were able to do all kinds of amazing things. And what's really interesting is, as you'll learn if you're not intimately involved with nonprofits, is that many of the smaller ones, not like the Red Cross or the Salvation Armies, they have a very small staff. And so most people wear multiple hats. Marketing is always a shared responsibility, generally among 2 or 3 or 4 people. And so it always kind of sits in the back seat. And so because of that, because they don't really have a marketing expert to dedicate full time, it's always like, well, let's just post something. Let's just try this. Well, we got to get it out. So let's just post it. And so it never really sees its full potential, and it can never really be a resource. So instead it's being seen as a cost center, whereas like something we have to do, but it's not generating results. And so when we can step in and we can help, educate, empower, inspire, and do all those things we talked about before, it kind of spins and they say, wow, the power of marketing is not a cost center. It is very much an investment that can generate results. And so we hope that, we kind of get them on their feet and get them to see marketing as being exactly that, being a return on investment and not something that's just a cost center.
Awesome. Wow. That's incredible that you're doing that to help nonprofits. I've mentioned to you that I founded a nonprofit. And one of the things that we tried early on was to do some Facebook ads. And, our budget, is limited and we want to make sure it goes all the way to our community. And there's just really not much, generated from that. What are your thoughts on Facebook ads for any business, not just nonprofits?
It's funny. It sounds like you said slimited, and I thought, like, yeah, that's actually the perfect word, slim and limited. Yeah, I had a nonprofit recently ask me because I suggested Google Ads. Google has something called an ads grant, which gives nonprofits, I want to say I believe it's a $10,000 grant, and you can spend all of that in ads, which is amazing. And someone asked me, they said, Chris, well, why would we want to do that? And I said, well, let me ask you this. And this is something I would get from big organizations, even the Salvation Army. They would always say, people know who we are, but they don't exactly know what we do. So I would ask you this, if you're a nonprofit, if people don't know what you do, what is the probability they're going to give or get involved?
Mhm.
What is the probability they're going to convert when you send an email out or social media post asking for help? I don't care if it's asking for like shower gel and socks for the homeless, or if it's asking for $5 on Giving Tuesday. What is the probability they're going to give to you? And especially if you can't quantify what that $5 will be used for or how many people that $5 can serve, then they're not. I can just tell you that. And so what I tell my clients, especially in the nonprofit space, is that you want to be top of mind, especially going into annual campaigns, going into Giving Tuesday, going into the end of the year, because there are so many people that might ask their spouse, hey, honey, we have to give away $500 or $10,000 at the end of the year for tax purposes. Who should we give the money to? Do you know how many people Google that because they don't have a nonprofit that they normally support? And so the money's going to go to a nonprofit that ends up on the first page. Did you know you could do that organically by running ads? And so that happens too with events like, hey, what's going on in the community? Well, it just so happens your nonprofit might be hosting a gala next week. So there's so many reasons, especially if you run any type of programming for families or children in the community, then you'd want to be running campaigns a month, 2 months before that to generate awareness for those things that are happening. And again, I don't care if this is necessarily for low income families or not. Most people have a cell phone. Most people are Googling it, and you can become not only top of mind, but you can be more aware for other people in the community. And when that time comes, eventually they're going to say, oh yeah, I've seen their mission. I really love what they do. I need to learn more about that. And that's what's going to encourage them to get on the board, volunteer, give money, give time, whatever it might be. And so I think it's really about being proactive, not being reactive. And so if you can continually get your message out there consistently over a long period of time, people will build warmth to your brand and they'll want to get involved in some capacity.
Awesome. You mentioned there that you run campaigns. Are you talking about Facebook campaigns or just campaigns in general, or campaigns on Google, or does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, all campaigns, but ultimately you want to know where your audience is. And I love most platforms for advertising, but if you're a nonprofit, it's unlikely TikTok is going to be the place you're going to be wanting to run ads. No, maybe you could probably convince me otherwise, but the big behemoth for nonprofits specifically is going to be likely Google and Facebook. And it depends. If you're more of a for-profit, I love YouTube. YouTube is probably the best bang for your buck right now. And what I do specifically with YouTube is I run pre-roll ads where they are 10 seconds before the video you want to watch. You have to watch a commercial. We've all been there and seen them before. I was getting some client views about 1 to 2 cents per view, targeting your exact demographic. And that's just not something you can get on most platforms. So I'm a huge fan of YouTube, specifically because if you can run a video ad, you can tell your story of your nonprofit or your for-profit business much more clearly. You can say a lot more in a lot less time. And so, again, it's just trying one or two platforms to see what's going to work best for your organization, and then continually evolving.
Wow, this is all such great information. There's so many different platforms and so many different ways to do things, and trying to navigate what works and what doesn't work, especially for a small nonprofit, can be really overwhelming, especially for one that doesn't have the budget to hire somebody like you who knows all those ins and outs. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
My
Is there
pleasure.
any other tips you have for us?
Yeah, I guess if we'll keep it on the nonprofit for a moment, I would say that mostly what the nonprofits are targeting and what they want are two different things. So, as you know, the majority of the people who are giving money or large sums of money are typically in the retirement or very close to retirement phase. And so those individuals are not as active on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. They're more active on Facebook. Maybe a little bit if they're still in the workforce on LinkedIn. And so if you're going to run campaigns toward like annual campaigns toward looking for larger dollar amounts, then you're going to want to focus on those platforms. Now, what I mentioned before about the nonprofits, a lot of them are saying, look, we understand that our big donors are aging out. And so we need to get more young people in our funnel. Well, if that's the case for your nonprofit or your business, if you're trying to target young people, you need to go to where they are. And I'll just tell you a really quick story. When I was teaching social media marketing at a university here locally last fall, we did a quick analysis of everybody's social media. It took a couple weeks to do that and present. And out of 34 students, only one of them actively used Facebook. And we're talking about juniors and seniors who are in kind of that 20 to 22 age range. And the primary reason four of them even had it was because of the Facebook Marketplace. And so it's just really intriguing to me to see that the younger 20-somethings are barely active on Facebook. They're primarily active on YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram a little bit. And that does vary based on those micro categories within that young person category. But you ultimately, if you want to bring people into your funnel, you got to get active on some of those platforms and be relevant to them, because if you're not, you're invisible. And if you're invisible, you can't expect young people to get involved with your nonprofit or your small business. So you have to meet people, the right audience where they are, and you have to tailor a lot of your content and your messaging to them. You can't just expect to put something on Facebook and then put it on all platforms and hope that it works, because that's not a strategy. That's more of a wish.
So you really just got to obviously know your audience, and then know how to post on each individual platform to make it most relevant to obviously the viewers. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So this is all about the little give. So can you give the audience an example of a little thing they can do in their community that might be a little give on their part, but might actually make a big impact on the other end?
Yeah, to me, I go back to small business so often, and been fortunate to own several small businesses in my young career. And the thing to me that is always very meaningful and just makes you feel really good, like you're doing the right thing, is when friends want to do business with you and they want to pay full price. So if you have friends, family, anybody, relatives that own a small business, don't ask for a discount. Happily want to support their business and happily want to pay full price. And that to me, and if they do offer a discount, don't take it. Because you have no idea as an entrepreneur how that feels when someone wants to do that for you. And so that was something that was kind of a gift given to me multiple times by friends and people that I knew. And as a byproduct, that's something that I've returned to other people. They say, well, let me just take care of you. No. You please don't do that. I want you to be successful. I want to see you be successful. And people say that it means so much. And it's not something you're to see in their face, but it definitely hits close to home. And so that's the reason they're in business is for people to want to do business with them.
Wow, that's a fantastic example. That is definitely not one I've heard before, and I love that. That's fantastic. And you're right. That is such a gift to them to say, like, you know what, I support you so much that I don't need the discount. I don't want the discount. I want to give to your business. Wow, that's a great one. I really like that. So can you give an example of a little thing that maybe someone's done for you in your life that was a little give on their part, but maybe made a big impact to you?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an answer that I kind of already just gave you, but I'm going to flip it a little bit. And I had a good friend of mine say to me that And I wanted to give him a discount, give him something for free. And he said, look, this community has been really good to me, and it's my time to be really good to the community. And basically saying that, look, I used to be in my 20s and 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, and I have the discretionary income, and I want to do this. And it means a lot to me that I can support you. And so I've kind of taken that, and I've been using it now because in my 40s, it's my opportunity to give back. And I say give back, I do mean both to nonprofits and small businesses. And so I'm very conscious about trying to keep some of our money in the community and support some of those small boutiques and small restaurants and whatnot as much as we can, because you don't always see it, and sometimes you'll never know. But just know that most people do appreciate it, and so I've tried to take that and do the same. My wife's been really good over the years about reminding me. It's like, no, they're reaching out because they want to do business with you, not because they're asking for a discount. And so you just have to remind yourself that you don't have to do that. And so, but it also feels good when you can turn the tables and you can do that for your friends too.
Wonderful, wonderful examples. So you mentioned earlier you're part of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Is that the nonprofit you'd like to feature today?
Yeah, it is. My journey with them started back when I was probably a couple years out of college, and I don't remember how, but I got recruited to be a Big Brother, and I did that for a couple of years. And what was really interesting is I felt like I was learning more from my little than he was from me, and it was because we both came from very different cultural backgrounds, and my eyes were just wide open to one quick story is I would occasionally bring lunch, even though you're not supposed to buy anything for your little. And it was McDonald's. And I think the receipt was something like $12 or $11. I had, bought sodas and bought the meals, and then maybe bought like a shake or something on top of that. And he's like, "You spent $11?" I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Oh my God, that's a lot of money." And I said, "You think so?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't like my family could never afford that." And for a moment you stop and think like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. Sometimes we do take things for granted. And so there were lots of moments like that where it was just very eye opening and changed a lot of the way I look at life, and probably some of the things I take for granted. And so I later went on to became a board member and have been supporting that nonprofit specifically with different types of in-kind services and marketing work. And so it's really fulfilling and really fun to give back, and knowing that your time, your effort, your money can make an impact in the community in different ways.
Yeah, that's amazing that you donated your time and your expertise there. I've heard so much about Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I've heard all of these amazing stories of not, you think it's about you helping someone else, but I've heard so many stories of how that little actually helped the big. And that's kind of what you just described right there, whenever you're talking about how that $11 meant so much to him. And, to you, it was $11, but you realize, hey, that $11 means a lot to someone else. Like $1 is not a big deal unless you don't have one. So that's really cool that you learned so much. That's wonderful. Well, why don't you tell our audience where they can get in touch with you if they want to hire you to be their marketer, or if they want to reach out to you for other various reasons?
Yeah, absolutely. If you liked anything I had to say today and you're just genuinely interested in learning more about digital marketing, business, leadership, whatever it might be, I highly encourage you to reach out to me. I'd love to chat, connect with you. You can go to my marketing website, which is luxlevelmedia.com, or my personal page, which is iamchrisburns.com. And on my personal site, you can actually book time with me. And what I've been doing lately is giving away a free 15-minute business audit. So if you are just curious and about asking questions, or you'd love me to give you some opinions of what I think about your marketing website, whatever, you can book that right on my Calendly link on the Book Now tab. And no sales pitch, nothing like that, just free, undivided attention to help you. And I would like to plug my podcast, which is hustlenationpodcast.com if you're interested. And thank you for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Yeah, really enjoyed it. You gave us a lot of examples of great things that we can do on our end to make our social media better and make our marketing better. Such fantastic information. And I will definitely be listening to your podcast. I cannot wait. I love hearing about marketing and all the different strategies. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Chris. Well, thank you so much for being on, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see ya. Thanks.
Thank you all so much for watching this episode of The Little Give with me tonight. I love how Chris took his passion for marketing and turned into a business that helps other businesses grow. It also helps nonprofits grow and share their mission. Being the founder of a nonprofit myself, I know there is no way to really grow your mission, to show people what it is that you're doing to help others without marketing. So I'm so grateful that he came on today to share those little tips and tricks with us so we can implement them in our businesses and in our nonprofits to help them grow and do better. So thank you for that, Chris. If anybody wants to know more about Chris, or they want to be a guest on our show, or maybe have suggestions for our show, you can visit us at littlegive.com. We have all of the information there. If you'd like to become one of our podcast listeners, please do also visit our website and just click on the Little Give Podcast tab at the top. We can't wait to see you next time. So thank you for spending your Sunday with us.